and just welcome you, Lisa. We've loved your workshops so far and really appreciate all the wonderful information that you share with us regarding behavior. And I've been doing this job for a very long time, and I still learn things from you. And so I know that we'll all appreciate everything you have to say. And I'll share my screen so that we can get started. Let's see.
Let's see, play from the start at the last, right there.
All right, take it away, Lisa.
All right, thanks for having me, Susan. I always enjoy working with your schools, and good to see. I know I've known some of you over the years, so if I can't really see your faces, glad to see you again in my mind. Today we're going to talk about, of course, one of my favorite topics, dealing with challenging behavior. And that's a broad topic. It can mean anything you need it to mean. And we're going to focus though on the twos and threes as the age group today. We've got an hour, so we can't do a tremendous amount, but we can get pretty far. And I want to leave you with some key things to think about, some practical things to try. If you find that, you know what, I've heard this before, I do know how to do that, then I hope becomes a refresher for you and kind of can inspire you to like do some of the things that you used to try and maybe forgot about. And I would love it if there are any people that can talk and participate, please just raise your hand on the Zoom, button. Just raise your hand, and I would love to stop and speak. When you have a question, bring it up. Don't wait until the end. Okie doke. All right, let's go ahead and move to the first slide. So in thinking about how I wanted to break this hour up and what things could we cover in this time frame, I feel like it's important that we discuss ways we can become a trusted leader in the eyes of the child. Turquoise Room, you had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself, Turquoise Room? I can't hear you. Oh, is that you, Susan? I thought someone in Turquoise Room was raising their hand.
Maybe it was just on accident.
Okay. Um, I want us to talk about how can we be more prevention minded. I'm big on prevention. I feel like we can do a lot with less if we can sort of be one step ahead of the kids, and in our mind's eye be thinking of what is the child's perspective, and how is this going to feel and look to them, what is their filter, how can we set the stage for success. So we'll talk about that, and that's another way of saying let's be proactive rather than reactive. Now, sometimes you have to be reactive. Sometimes there is nothing you can do but intervene. You've set the stage beautifully, you've prevented all you can, and yet still you need to step in because there's a conflict or there's a child who is just being really non-compliant. So we'll talk about that too. I want to really hit home the importance of using I messages and active listening. I just think that is at the crux of all of our interventions, and an important way to start if we want children to listen to what we have to say in terms of the way we want to coach them. We'll talk about using choices, which I'm sure you do already. We'll just hit that and talk about it some more, and also just cause and effect in your coaching, because for a 2 and a 3-year-old, they are pretty good now. I mean, they've become, through the toddler age, they're pretty good at understanding one thing causes another. So when you start to use logical consequences in your coaching of children who are misbehaving, it's a fit for them. It's a fit. So we'll talk about more ways to do that. All right, next slide. before we talk about strategies, let's just get really on the same page about why do we see this behavior? And let's look two categories of challenging behavior. One is when children hurt others. Secondly, when they act oppositional with you. You know what I mean by oppositional, where you're asking them to sit down or walk with you, or you know, get their coat on, or whatever it is. That's and they um, resist. That's acting oppositional. Why do they do it? Well, it could be a reaction to typical stressors of being in a group. What do I mean by that? What are some typical stressors? I've put them in some categories. The first category is transitions. Transitions are hard for kids. You know this as well as I do. And why is that? Because all of a sudden, you're transitioning from, snack time to circle time, or you're transitioning from, outdoors to indoors, whatever. There's a million transitions during your day. There can be sort of a lack of focus for some of the kids because you can't be one-on-one with all these children. You might have 20 children and two or three teachers, and so everybody doesn't get personal focus at that time. There's a lot of stimulation. There's what I call being thwarted is happening. I love that word. And it means some children will say, like, I'm not ready to go home from the park, or and so what you're saying is time to get on the rope now, time to, like, walk back to school. You are thwarting them from their point of view. You're opposing their desires. That's being thwarted. So that happens in a lot of transitions. Lack of specific forewarning. The change comes up too suddenly. It may be that you say cleanup time, but there was no lead up to cleanup time. And so all of a sudden, children may be asked to start and, like, end what they were doing and begin now putting it all away. You want to forewarn them 5 or 10 minutes ahead of time, of course, to make it easier on you and them. Clustering is what I call when we ask children to sit together, stand together, or work close to others. It can't be helped some of the time. You have to ask them to do these things. It's just, for them, it's a stressor. And so they're more likely to act out. Not everybody, obviously. It's the certain kids with certain backgrounds, certain temperaments, certain, features about them will be more inclined to feel that stressor than others. Next, space or material disputes. To me, this is, I'm a 2-year-old, I'm a 3-year-old, I'm having trouble, I'm feeling some angst because I don't like waiting for a turn. You're telling me it's not my turn, he's got it right now. My problem is, what do I do while I'm waiting? So that's a good tip for us. Like, where do we insert some skill building? Like, what do you do while you're waiting? We'll get into that. Grabbing impulsively, hurting, what I call preemptively, hurting someone preemptively or after being upset. You've seen these kids who they're doing something, they see somebody coming, walking by them maybe, and they might strike out. That's preemptively, in their mind, getting that kid out of the way or letting him know, I'm using this. Still, it's not okay, but I'm saying from their point of view, this is what's happening. In between activities, there's something called, and you probably know this phrase, aimless wandering. If you see a child who's aimlessly wandering, they've finished up a job, they've finished up an activity, and they're kind of like, what do I do with myself now? And maybe it's been 30 or 40 minutes and they've kind of done the things that they cared about doing, and now it's still free choice time, it's still work time. What am So they're kind of need an idea. They may need some direction. They may need some facilitation of, like, some things to try next. And sometimes they're just seeking attention. They're, like, tired of being on their own, tired of working, looking for some social emotional discomfort of some sort, that can prompt acting out behavior too. Other reasons, when children are just beginning to understand what they're feeling and why they're feeling it. These guys, sometimes they talk a good game, and they'll say, I'm frustrated, or, I'm mad, but they don't really know what to do with that feeling. So we're going to talk about what are some ideas you can give them for what to do with that feeling when it comes up. We all know that their impulse control is sometimes rudimentary, sometimes pretty, meager and hard for certain children. Again, in a classroom of, any size, you're going to have some children that have complete impulse control. They are meek and mild mannered. They are easygoing kids. And then you'll have others that are more challenging. You see this also because some children are really still learning about the rules to be followed at school. And that whole concept of rules, and especially for a new child, if you have a child who's new to your school, they may not even be hep to the concept of rules because at home there aren't any. It may be that this is a child who's coming from a super permissive, open-ended, you're the boss child kind of home. And so then there's put into an environment where we're operating as a community here, and there are times where we eat, there are times when we sleep, there are times when we put our coats on, there are times when we sit down for a story. It's more regimented. There are rules about we don't hurt people's feelings, we don't hurt people's bodies, we don't throw toys. Those are all rules that some children, even at this age, have not been exposed to. Limit setting can be too permissive. As I said, at home, when that's the problem, sometimes you have one parent that's very
Me?
sorry. Sometimes you have one parent that's very permissive and one parent that is very strict, or maybe, properly strict for the aged child. But the child goes back and forth playing parents one off against the other, and then comes to school and has trouble, getting into the mindset of, and now we follow the rules. Some kids that are difficult to manage, it's difficult for teachers to develop a rapport with them, to develop a meaningful connection with the adults in their life. And so what happens is they don't have enough incentive to please you or to do what you say because they don't have a personal connection. So we want to develop that connection as best we can. And lastly, sometimes the physical environment is creating obstacles. And we're going to talk about that in some detail in a minute. But I always say, control what you can control. In the physical environment, if you take a fresh look at the pathways in your classroom, where the items are, is there enough space to sit? If you're, 30 inches tall, how does everything look to you? Is the furniture right for your body? It just lots of things about the environment will be to your advantage if it's carefully curated. Next, then I want us to always ask ourselves before we dive into let's fix everything. Let's see if we need to recalibrate our expectations at all. So you always want to remind yourself, okay, I'm working with a 2.5-year-old, or I'm concerned about a 3.5-year-old, or, I'm concerned about a 3-year-old who has a twin at home and a mother who just went back to work. What are the situations of the life of this child who's creating special challenges? Am I expecting too much? Do I think that they can ... Number one, understand abstract concepts? Do I think they can? in my opinion, a 2 and a 3-year-old are pretty bad at abstract concepts still. Some of them are very verbal and they talk a good game, but in their cognitive abilities, they don't have a good grip on words like nice, be nice to your friends, and they don't have a way to put themselves in another person's shoes very easily. Their empathy is not really very high at this age. It's better when they turn 4, but a 2 to 3-year-old, when you say, how would you like it if somebody did that to you? It's going to go right over their head. Right over their head. They might look down and say, but honestly, they don't have enough understanding of it to make that change their behavior. So second bullet, know which words you want to use in the heat of the moment. When lots of us preschool teachers, and I started as a preschool teacher, we're taught to say, you need to use your words. You need to use your words because we don't want them to use their bodies to act out a difficult feeling. We want them to use their words. Obviously, that's true. It's hard for a 2 or 3-year-old to make that leap into which words in the heat of the moment should I use right now. And we'll talk more about that too, but that's what I mean also about let's recalibrate our expectations. For example, if a child is too close to you, you want to teach them to say the word move back. What's the problem? So we want to help them identify the problem and then pick a solution that's going to be something they can use in the heat of the moment, and they don't need the teacher to come running over and rescue and insert herself and fix everything. So that's my goal, is for you to help them become more self-disciplined. Again, having actual empathy for another child's feelings. I don't think they really have it at this age, not at 2 and 3. How do you think he feels when you hurt him? They know what to say. They know what the canned answer should be. They'll say sad. Immediately, they'll say sad. Do they think about that ahead of time? Does it stop them? Probably not. And even the opposite can be true. I don't know if you've ever seen, for example, somebody say, it makes me sad when you do that. And then they immediately do it again because they want to see the power of making you sad. It's like asking them to push your button. So that's not helpful. Do we think they understand and can use manners? Ask yourself that. Do I think that they understand and can use manners? When we say things to a child like, you should know better. Again, I think that's abstract. I think they know what you're saying in terms of you're not supposed to do X, Y, Z. Maybe they understand it at some point, using those manners, sometimes not always in action. Sometimes not always in action. Okay, next. Few more common mistakes that we make, just so that we can sort of say, well, what are some of these problem areas we might want to rethink? One is very common. Everybody does this one, is thinking maybe there's one main reason for any misbehavior. I have found in my life, and I've been doing this for over 35 years, that there's always more than one reason for all misbehavior. And I know that Susan and I have done workshops on this before, where my handout is there are 7 reasons why children, have challenging behavior. And we can talk about some of those 7, and I can certainly share that handout with you after this is over. But it's always more than one thing. So you have to be a bit of a detective. Bullet number 2, common mistake I hear a lot at schools I go to and do observations of children, training, more observations of challenging children, is what I would call only using passive techniques and rule reminders. Because for some children that are very persistent and they have a long pattern of misbehavior, saying things like, no, thank you, when you're trying to stop a child from acting out is not going to last. It's not going to work. It's not helpful. In fact, it's very confusing because in their head, remember, they're concrete thinkers. If you say no and thank you in the same sentence, you're just completely mixing them up. You're trying to set a limit by being very mannerly yourself. And that, I would say, try to excise that from your
Dirty tissue, Adela. Stop.
I think we have a little noise in Red Room. Hands to yourself. Hands to yourself, I like. I mean, gentle hands, I like. But again, if you're only ever using passive techniques, you may need to go another level to something more intervening. Sometimes people will say, I don't like it when you do that. I think that's fine. Again, it's a rule reminder. It's a passive technique. It's not enough. It's not enough for a repetitive child whose behavior is challenging over and over again. Forcing an apology. I have a strong feeling about this one because I've seen it used a lot in families more than in schools. But when children are forced to say, I'm sorry, it just becomes an easy, very inauthentic way out of trouble. And so I've seen so many kids hurt somebody and then walk right over to them and say, sorry, sorry, sorry. And they're instantly out of trouble. And so there's no incentive. It doesn't hurt them in any way. It's like it's no disincentive for continuing that behavior. Another common mistake is not trying to figure out the hurtful child's perspective. We say that if there are children that are in some sort of a conflict, we often will say to the victim, like, oh, I'm so sorry you were hurt. That must have been scary. Let me get you a Kleenex, and whatever you need to get the hurt child. And then often you say to the child who did the hurting, look what happened to her arm. She's so sad. She has to, let's get her a Kleenex, but we forget sometimes that the person who needs the coaching is actually the aggressor, actually the child who did the acting out, did the hurtful behavior. That's the missing link oftentimes in putting a stop to a child that gets into a bad habit of acting out and hurtful behavior, because they're the ones that need coaching on what to do with this feeling. More on that in a minute. We also sometimes expect a child to share willingly. Like, you need to share that. There's a lot of blocks here. You need to share. It's true. We do want them to share. Be careful that you do understand when you ask a child to share, you're asking them to lose something. So if I'm holding, the flashlight and we're doing a little thing and I'm, doing a job with a flashlight and somebody wants a turn, and I ask this child to share with the next person, or I give a few, like in 5 minutes, you need to share. It's better, in my opinion, to use the phrase a turn. It's time for someone to have another turn, or he's holding it, so he's having a turn. That's how you tell if something is open or closed in just a open-ended play situation. Is if I'm having this pen, I'm having a turn with it. When I set it down, it's open for use. With young toddlers, especially, it's important to do that. 3-year-olds are getting much better at understanding the ins and outs of how to share things, but just be leery of how often you might want to use that word, and try to use turn taking more frequently. Not teaching children self-regulation and calming techniques. I'm getting more and more interested in actively teaching this to children who are in need of ideas for this. They know the word frustrated, they know the word angry, they understand what they're feeling, they use it appropriately, and yet they don't know how to calm themselves down. So for some children, maybe 3 in a group of 10, they really actively need you to give them specific physical ideas for how to calm themselves. Again, the goal is self-discipline. Self-discipline. So something that they have at their fingertips. And it's something that parents can teach too. Another mistake, and again, this is famous, parents are famous for this one, honestly, is letting a child regularly push a limit with little to no consequences. So lots of people use just ignoring the problem, look the other way, distracting the child with something else, negotiating, like with a child, if you do this, then I'll give you that, or threatening, if you do that again, you can't, blah, blah, blah. So those, to me, that's not as useful and helpful as something like a logical consequence. So key points for success. Let's talk through this. How are we doing on time? As I was saying at the beginning, you want to really connect with a challenging child, somehow work to build a rapport, somehow have something friendly that you can speak about, talk about a memory you had or something you did together, or something, you know, he's looking forward to, or you want to hear more about it. Sort of invest in conversation that has nothing to do with any behavioral issues, and just enjoy him or her for being who they are as a little person. The outcome when you have a child that sees you as a leader, sees you as a supportive person, is they'll come to you for support rather than strike out at others. They'll like shout your name if they're feeling some angst, because they'll begin to care more about your opinion of him or her. They'll care more. They'll feel like they can lean on you for help, which is great. Number 2 is use a prevention mindset. You want to control what you can control. So meaning, I'll give you an example of something I just helped a school with a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And this was, it was a 2.5 to 3.5 classroom with maybe 14 children, I think total, 12 to 14. And they were all on a round carpet for their circle time. And they sat at the edge of the round carpet. Well, this carpet was just not big enough for the number of children on it. And they were sitting very close together. And if the teacher's showing, you know, a book or something, the other people were craning their necks to be able to see it. And I suggested, can you get a larger carpet, maybe an oval actually, so that it broadens people out. It gives them a little more, you know, elbow room. And I think it will cut down on the just tension at circle time. They ordered one the next week. I came back again and they said, that really, really helped. That really, really helped, because, and it's a small thing, it's inexpensive, and it's something that you can control. So that's an example. Another example of controlling what you can control is how much time are we allocating for certain activities? You know, is it too much? Is it too little? You might find that it's often better to break up a large chunk of time into 2 smaller chunks of time and reset, you know, kind of reset for children what's happening, be facilitating a little bit more directly. Book size. Sometimes people use like a book the size of my hand for a group of 20 kids. That's ridiculous. They can't see it. So why even bother? It's just going to create, again, angst. Let's reduce the amount of angst. Use of music. There's some teachers that just do a great job of using music. I see them going on walks with children and, you know, they're singing a favorite song, or it's a song that you can throw them a phrase, you know, and a verse, and somebody comes up with something to add to the verse. It's a participatory kind of music. Even using music as you sit down, you're sitting down, everybody's cleaned up, you're going to start circle time. Rather than just start with a lesson or something, how about starting with some kind of a focus element? Like some schools will say, all right, let's feel our heart. Let's rub our earlobes. Yes. Oh, it feels so good. Let's take a deep breath. Like, they'll do some sort of gesturing or breathing, or they might do like a song that they all enjoy. It's a way of, again, pulling focus. Seating positions on rugs and tables. I'm, I really have seen a lot in my life of different seating arrangements. People don't all sit on the edge of the carpet. People don't all sit on the carpet. Some people put some on chairs in the back of it. Some people sit kind of in a mush pot all together. With this age group, you have your own reasons for how you seat the kids. Just keep an eye on if it's anything about that is causing conflict or tension that you can change. If I have a child that's very challenging, I would say always put him at the end of the table or the other end of the table, not in the middle where he's right next to other people and they're doing this. It helps, like if you have edges, if I'm a challenging child, I'm going to feel better if I have my own part of the table with solid corners, and it helps define my space. So I don't feel so territorial. Your facilitation of positive behaviors during activities. I'm sure you do this just as you're wandering around, like throughout the space when the children are working, just commenting on what you see, in a positive way. It's a lovely sort of like, I'm involved in, seeing what's happening. How you do it. I'm just saying those positive moments help prevent upsetness. And again, use of forewarning. People have a lot of different ways of doing this. I've seen some lovely methods where if you're forewarning that it's almost cleanup time or it's almost some kind of time to go outside or time to whatever, I've seen classrooms that have like one of those bowls, those what are those called, Susan? I forget. It's like a Tibetan sound bowl that or I've seen, xylophones that are beautiful, not the funky toy kind, but like really beautiful tones. I've seen people like strum a guitar, and that's the signal that it's, 5 minutes until such and such is happening. So, just sort of be creative. If there's some sort of gentle, interesting way that can lend a tone that you want to create for the children. Tibetan singing bowl, that's it, yeah. Now teach self-regulation. Notice when he needs to calm himself down, or she. There's this one that I've started using recently that I'll show it to you with my hand. And when you can say to a child, like, your hands seem to want to grab people's things or grab or hit or whatever the issue is, you can say, when you have that feeling, try to do this. You can control your hands. You can control your hands. It's like thumb to pointer finger, thumb to middle finger, thumb to ring finger, thumb to baby finger, backwards, like this. A 3-year-old can do this. And you know what? They like it. They like it. It's calming. It takes a little concentration to do it. I would recommend trying that with somebody and seeing how they like it. And you can just give them a little gentle reminder. You see them kind of getting like upset, you can just say, fingertips. Don't forget fingertips. Going on a walk. You've got, somebody's holding the rope, and then they're like messing with somebody with their other hand, pulling on somebody's hood, for example, or just messing around. You can just walk, say their name and say, reminding you about fingertips. I've done that with kids you're walking along and they're pulling, coleus leaves off the bushes as you walk by somebody's townhouse. again, we talk about those don't belong to us. If your fingers want to grab it, keep your fingers in control. You can do it.
Lisa, can I ask
Yeah.
a question? So when you're teaching the self-regulation, so you would teach that at a time, like at a circle time, for instance, and would just demonstrate how to do that so that, and let them know that when they are feeling like they need to do that, they can do this
You know
instead.
what? I wouldn't do it at circle time, actually. I would do an individual conversation with the child that needs that kind of help
But it would
first.
be like at an individual lesson at just another
Just
time.
a little like, come on over, I want to show something to you. Come on over, I want to tell you something that I just learned that is helping me. Kind of you want to demo it in a very sort of intimate way and let them try it without being stimulated by everybody else. And then it gets silly. Do you see what I mean? I want them to see this as, oh, yeah, I could do this.
Mhm.
It's a
Thank you.
personal thing, personal thing. I actually haven't seen, the only thing I have seen done that's easy and it doesn't get too silly. I've seen a preschool teacher do the earlobes, and I think she could have taught them this individually, but I think she did. I think she taught them at circle time. Okay, everybody, like, oh yeah, rub your earlobes, find your earlobe, find this part right in by your thumb. Yes, doesn't that feel good? Give yourself a little back. There are teachers that do this all the time, and it's kind of like the yoga thing. It's kind of like those kinds of activities. This one I like, fire hands. Fire hands. There are especially active little boys that love the concept of, ooh, yeah, fire hands. And the point you're making is your hands we're not going to allow you to grab people. I won't let you hit people. I won't let you grab things. I won't let you hurt people with your hands. But here's an idea. If they feel like they want to do that, do this instead. Self hugs, humming. Humming, they say, it like creates a real disconnect between your emotional feelings in your brain and your calm. It connects them together in a way where it forces you to calm down. Humming. Something is special about the buzzing noise on your lips and humming loudly. Again, that could be done on a walk. It could be done while you're waiting for something, like I'm waiting to play with that truck. I know it's so hard to wait. Here's something you can hold. Look at this book. Maybe you can hum while you're waiting for it. You've got about 5 minutes to wait. So we have to give them ideas on what to do while they're waiting. Some of this self-regulation stuff could fit the bill. So let's start each intervention with an I message and some active listening. Why do I say that? I think it helps prevent a power struggle because we're not saying to children, you know better, you shouldn't do that. We're not, because anytime we start with a you statement, it puts off like defensiveness. I'm being attacked, I'm not going to listen. So they're not instantly being blamed, but you are describing what you're seeing, what the problem seems to be. I see grabbing, and that's a problem. And now it gives you a way in to helping identify what's happening and offer solutions. You want them to understand the emotions within them. I know it's hard to wait for something. I get it. It's hard to wait. But you don't use pleading or reasoning when a child is upset. When you have one child that's really acting out, very upset, tantruming, crying, fussing to the point of being loud, I suggest don't even try to talk them down. All you want to say is, I can see how upset you are. I understand. Come on over here. This is a good place to calm down. When you're ready to talk, I'll help you sort it out. I'll be right here. So pleading with them or reasoning, it just doesn't even connect with the side of the brain that they're in at that point. So we want to become really masterful at giving choices within your limits. And I know you know about that. when you say to kids, do you want to hold the rope or hold my hand? When you say, do you want to sit on the yellow dot or the red dot? You're giving them choices and you're still expecting them to follow the limit. They will push the limit to find the edge of their power. If it's unclear, and you've got a bunch of kids who at home, they have great success in pushing the limits because the limits bend. That's just how it is with some grandparents, with some nannies, with some babysitters, and with some parents. So it's important at school, and I'm going to talk to parents also about being, firm but warm when setting a limit and offering them a choice, because you do want to give them some power over their existence and their lives, but within limits. So we'll talk about more of that. I've got some good handouts for you on that. And then logical consequences. This age child understands cause and effect, like I said, so you want to hold them accountable. If a child is hurting another child, I do what I call swoop and plop, and I move them away, and I say at this time, I see hitting. That's a problem. I won't let you near people when you hurt them. I won't let you be near people when you hurt them. And I'm physically not letting them be near that person now. So it all is, accurate, relevant, and to the point. A firm but warm tone, by the way, is very different from a conversational tone. So if you have to step in to you can go ahead and put up the, let's put up the active listening one. Yeah. Help a child gain focus and understand their emotions. We'll do that one first, Susan. What was I going to say? Oh, lots of people try to set limits by using the same very friendly, gentle tone, and it sounds like I'm pleading with you because I'm just asking you nicely to please play by the rules, follow the limits, da 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 da, and it doesn't compute as a directive. It computes as an option. The other thing that happens with lots and lots of adults is we try to stay friendly with children, especially the ones that, drive you a little crazy, and you automatically say, time to get your coat on now, okay? Time to come to the lunch table now, okay? Never add the word okay to the end of a sentence. It can do nothing but work against you. Because if you do, a child who is a concrete thinker, like a 2 and a 3-year-old, really will interpret that as, is it okay with me? No, it's not okay with me. So I'm not going to do it. And maybe they'll do it. But if they're, feeling oppositional, you've practically handed them permission to say no. So I teach this to parents. I'll teach it to parents tomorrow. And I'm very, very convinced that this is one reason why children come to school feeling like, there are no real rules. Everything is just optional. So let's talk about iMessages and confident momentum. I love this phrase, confident momentum. Confident momentum it means saying something in a way where you are giving the impression that I understand, here's the limit, and here we go. And it's sort of like drawing a path for the child, like you've identified what's happening, you've told them what's going to happen next though, and here's the end of the path. Here's where we're headed. Let me just read some examples for you. Number 1, I know you wish you could play longer. I get it, but the clock is telling us it's cleanup time. So I know you wish you could play longer. I've used an iMessage. I get you. I see it. You wish is a really good phrase for a 3-year-old because they have a lot of fantasies and wishes and think that they can just invent how the day is going to go. But the clock is telling us it's cleanup time. You can point to the clock. You can point to your watch. You can point to your phone. They need to start understanding that you're not saying no just to be like mean. you are on a schedule and you are mindful of the clock. So often you can help yourself bring down the temperature of the room by using that. Another one, I'm waiting 1 more minute to see if you come over here on your own or if you need my help. So giving a choice, you're using an iMessage, you're establishing your position. And I'm saying that in a tone of voice that is letting them know I really will be coming over to help you if you don't come. Number 3, listen. Once you've finished with blank, I'll tell you my idea for what's coming up next. This is an iMessage, but it's also, it's like suspense. Using suspense. I love this phrase, my idea. And I want you to start thinking of ways you can help them use, you could say to them, I understand you wanted to play with blank right now. That was your first idea. What's your next idea? What's your next idea, Emily? Because guess what? Emily doesn't even know she has more than one idea at a time. And that is such a great flexible thinking, we call it. That's such a great message to teach kids at this age. What's your next idea? And if they are drawing a blank, you can, of course, offer them an idea and go, I'll bet this would be a good idea. And then you just move them through it. Number 4, uh-oh, I see grabbing, and that's a problem. Time to talk. Listen, let's find a solution. You know, everything doesn't have to be a federal case. You see grabbing, it's time to talk. You're going to refresh them on turn taking, how that works. Let's find a solution. Maybe they've been waiting a long time. How many more minutes do you need it, Sam? 7 minutes. Okay, Sam, we'll be back in 7 minutes. Now you help so-and-so find what she's doing next while she's waiting. Grabbing doesn't have to occur just because you're feeling like, oh, I need it right now. Number 5, hey, I'm wondering what's happening with you right now. Stop, let's sort this out. Maybe you see a child who's really acting out. I'm wondering what's happening right now is a great way to enter that conflict because you're entering as a support system. You're not entering as the warden. Let's sort this out. Again, I love that phrase because it might be foreign to you. You might not really talk that way, but if you use that in the context of this, it comes across to the child as my leader is going to help me. And they're going to be more compliant when they hear that. Number 6, I'm reminding you about how we only touch people gently. I won't let you hurt people. Be careful. Again, a couple of iMessages there. I'm reminding you of how we touch people gently. I won't let you hurt people. So you're reminding them and you're establishing your position. Let's look at choices. Next, down the next section here. Give choices that limit the outcome to something acceptable to you. Here's a note on choices, though. Here's what I see a lot happening. A lot of people rush children like this to make a choice. Try not to do that. See what I've written here? Please pause for a moment after asking for a choice. Don't question further. Don't rush the child if you don't have to. Just pause. And we already said we never say okay at the end of a compliance request. So let's look at can you roll? There we go. Number 1, Ian, here's some examples. You have a decision to make. You can walk to the bathroom by yourself or you can get some walking help from me. What's your choice? So land with that last thing. Now the ball's in their court. What's your choice? If they don't choose within 30 seconds, then they've made a choice. You're going to need to help them. And you can say that. I see you've made a choice. I'll be helping you. Number 2, Sonia, you can do it right now or you can do it in 2 more minutes. Which will it be? So maybe you've asked Sonia to do something like clean something up or, take care of something. Which will it be? Right now or in 2 minutes? Number 3, Maya, I'm offering you a choice. You can clean up the blocks or the Play-Doh, your choice. Again, put the ball in their court. Rather than keep asking kids, come on, time to clean up, let's go. When are you going to do? Blah, 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 blah. less is more. Number 4, Marvin, you can walk out of the playground on your own feet, or I can carry you, or I can help you walk. You know, there are different ways you get out of the playground. Which do you choose? And again, the more you sort of keep offering the choice, limited, they are inclined to fight you less on it. And if they don't make a choice, they have made a choice. They've given up their ability. So you have to now step in. Maybe at home, this is more at home. Teddy, I know you want a cookie for a snack, but right now here are your choices: celery with peanut butter or celery with cream and cheese, or only celery. Which one do you pick, or do you pick nothing? Again, that's just an example. Better for home, I think. Let's go to the next handout. I really like this page because I think that so many of our problems happen because we try to like get children to cooperate or comply with something, and we haven't gained focus yet. You haven't gained their attention. So think about please try to start including some starter phrases in your directions to children. You know, Santos, listen. Of course, that's easy. You do that one all the time, I'm sure. Next one. Here's a thought. that can help you get somebody's attention. Here's a thought. And then you pause. And especially if you're on one-on-one, you're trying to help someone with some behavior that they're getting into a bad way, and you step in with that. How about this idea? I've got an idea for you. What do you think about this? These are all just starter phrases because you're going to set the limit. You're going to control the outcome. But when you enter it in a way that's like optimistically, like, I'm here to help you. Remember, I'm your leader. I'm your support person, but I'm, you know, I am the boss is the point you're still trying to make. I wonder if you would enjoy playing with the blue paint for a while he's using the red. I wonder if. Again, you want them to start being more self-disciplined, and you're offering another way to look at something. I love that phrase. I wonder. Maybe this idea would work. Again, with the ideas. Aha, I see what the problem is. Aha, aha, I see what the problem is. 2 people want the same truck. Or, you know, you both wanted to sit on my lap. Or, you know, identify for them what was going on. Don't assume that they saw it. They see through little rose-colored glasses. They see their own little myopic point of view. You have to like identify what the problem is before you can help them with solutions. And then active listening and feeling phrases. You want to reflect the feeling and then describe the situation and the problem. I would say, examples, you feel very blank because, or it sounds like you feel this way because, or you're having trouble with this and that feels blank, or it seems to me you feel this way. It looks like you feel. Here's some difficult feeling words that I would encourage you to expand your repertoire. Most teachers are great at interjecting words, teaching children the words angry, frustrated, mad. Those are the 3 I hear most: angry, frustrated, and mad. In my opinion, it helps a lot, or sad. I'll say those 4. It helps a great deal if you can expand their little repertoire and they become better at using their words when they have a word that actually matches what they're really feeling. And so if you notice a child is feeling disappointed, you know, the blocks that he was using, he was building something with blocks. Somebody came along, accidentally knocked his blocks over, and he's now really upset. He may be looking mad at you, to you, but the underlying feeling is he's so disappointed because it just took him so long to build that, and now it's ruined. And if you say, I understand how disappointed you must feel. You put so much work into that. You know, let's figure out a way to, work this out or fix it back or whatever. But help them understand that. You may have to model these words, feeling impatient, feeling confused, feeling annoyed, feeling scared, feeling embarrassed, feeling worried, feeling nervous. I just would challenge you to give some thought to how you could use some of these words in your daily life with the kids. And honestly, you're going to be surprised that even 2-year-olds can correctly use a word like I'm irritated. And they won't say their R's too well, but irritated, or frustrated, or I so, upset. And it keeps them from acting out if they have a word that is powerful enough to make their position known. And it gives you time to come over and help talk them through some conflict resolution because they haven't struck out instantly with their bodies. They found a word that is like doing the job. So those are some of the things I can fit into this hour. I feel like it was such a big monologue. It's funny to talk to a group and not really, and knowing you're in nap time. I mean, I know that you can't really talk that well. But I hope that you pulled some things out of there that you can utilize. And if it's all been a big repeat of what you already know, I hope it's been a good refresher for you.
Julia, you have something?
Yeah, I was wondering, could you send those two documents you showed or to Susan or just so we have access to that?
Yeah, she'll have all of that to give you.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you
Even
so
even
much. I really
slide
appreciate
you
that.
Oh, you're welcome. And even the slideshow, Susan, you can give them all that stuff.
Yes,
Great, I will.
please.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. It's a really good refresher and keeps us on the right path. So thank you so much, Lisa. And you
You're
timed it perfectly, 1 hour.
Well, thank you for being here, everybody. I appreciate the time and attention, and I love your school. And I just, you guys do a great job. So, and this is a hard age. I mean, this is, they're just getting sort of, with it in terms of how to comply, how to follow the rules, how to get along with each other. You are, doing a lot of really important work that will stick with them social and emotionally for the rest of their lives, honestly. So, you know, kudos to all of you.
Great. Well, I'll see you tomorrow then.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.